So now we have wrote all the tests, different type of tests. Sometime organization skip them because they think that it's really hard to maintain those tests, which means that the requirement was not clearly understood. So this is the trickle down effect if you are not doing properly. But I can give you some tips which can help you write maintainable tests, and you would have less and less changes in those tests if you plan them correctly. So dry, which is don't repeat yourself, is one of the important aspect which is used in the programming the actual writing the actual code as well as in the test. So in the test it is even more useful because if something happens wrong and if you did it in 20 different test cases, 20 different tests, so you have to fix it everywhere. So if you externalize it from the test, if you write it separately only once and reuse that, that would be really helpful. So when some change happen, you will make change only at a single place, not in 20 or 50 or 60 tests you have written. So don't repeat yourself. So let me give you a detailed example here. So let's say we whenever we have to write a test for a certain API, so you have to externalize certain thing from the actual test. You can externalize building the DTO. I have seen lots and lots of tests in the lots of PR where those objects which are required for the test are created within the test again and again. And if some field changes, if something is changed like from the ID to a complete object, then you have to make changes in all those 200 500 tests. So it's better to externalize the building of the TTO, the preparation of the data to separate class, and just use or just reference that. And again, if you call certain APIs, so you may have to make calls again and again in different tests. If something changes, if some problem happen, you have to make change all of them. So externalize the API, the actual API call from your test. So your test should only contain the preparation of data part, so it will actually make call to the other DTOs, other class, which will give it. It will set up the request, so maybe certain things are required for the request. So if we can externalize it, it's better, and we can use it. Then we invoke the endpoint. So invoking endpoint should be also externalize a utility which would be used to make create, find or delete call. So these won't be testing, actually these will just make the call on behalf of the test, and once the response is available, it will be provided back. And then in the test you validate the response. So whenever you call an API, you validate its response, if it's giving the proper HTTP status, the object you were expecting, so if it's giving you everything according to your expectation. But this test is not complete yet. You have to verify its actual state as well. So this is what the API returns. So maybe you are trying to save something, the API might give you like this record is saved, but actually it's not saved due to some reference, due to some relationship between parent child table, and maybe it's ignored in the relationship not to persist the child. But when you get the response, so the response is returning the DTO which you just sent. So it might be, so something might be within the DTO or the response of the API, but actually it may not be part of the database. So just fetch the created data or the updated data from the database using the externalize API call or find a API call, get that data, and then validate that response if like it is really written in the database. I have written a lot of tests where the actual change was not made into proper database, and when I use this technique, it showed me a lot of bugs in creating the relationship of the ORM, or it may be deleting lot more record as against your expectation. And finally then you can clean your data. So that's how your typical test should be. You prepare data, set up requests, invoke the call, validate the response, then fetch the data from the database to verify if all those changes were uh, actually made or not, and then verify that response, and finally clean up if there is any cleanup required. So here we can see we externalize building of the GTO, the object or the JSON. We have also externalized the call. Externalizing mean not writing within the same method like the one test method, but use some utility classes or some other classes which can perform these action for you. And here we can see that we are making call to the actual API. So here I will discuss four tests. One is to save. So whenever you have to save, obviously you will prepare the data, you will call the create API, it will create for you, you verify the response. Once the verify you have verified the response, then make the find call. So you have already find by ID API. So try to find this saved data, making an API call to the system to fetch the saved data, and then validate the response, and if required you can delete it to clean up. So usually when we run the automated test, it just create lot and lot of junk data in the database. You can uh, clean up everything if you want. So test update, for to test the update, you first create your data. You always modify your own data, so your test should be capable of creating its own data. Once that's created, then you call the update API or perform the update test on your created data. Once that update has been made, then verify that update has gone to the database or other services or wherever the changes had to be. So you do that by finding or by calling the API which just give you the data. You validate the response, and if you want the cleanup you can clean or delete your record. So test delete, so if you have to delete certain thing, you have to perform a test on the delete. So you first create your own data and then delete it, and then verify by calling the find if it's really deleted. Validate your response. Similarly for finding, you can actually call the create. You build your data, then you try to find it, then you validate the response, and then finally you delete. Here we haven't deleted here because we already call the delete, and in the find we are expecting that it should return as 404 or null at least. That will assure that the record was actually deleted. So this is the test strategy you must follow. This is the way to write maintainable tests. These tests won't depend on other tests. So these are self-sufficient. These are autonomous tests. These provide the required data, they require validation, and required cleanup as well. Always avoid wet right every time we enjoy typing or waste everyone time. So this is opposite of dry. Don't repeat yourself. And here we see that wet is like waste everyone's time. So if you write the same code for 20, 50, 60 times, even if it's for creating the DTO, so you have created that DTO in 60 tests, and if some field changes or something is removed, you have to make fixes at 60 places. So it is best not to repeat yourself. Repeating yourself leads lots and lots of bugs in the system. You can access the source code repository here. That's it. Thank you so much. Thank you for staying with this whole course. Thank you. Take care. Bye.